I'm Kaylee, and today I'm going to be recommending some nonfiction that you could read for the June Journeys with Inklings Readathon. This Inklings Readathon is going to take place in June, and it's called June Journeys because you will be going on an epic journey together with the Inklings as you read all of the reading prompts. The only thing you have to do to participate is just read something from the Inklings, but if you want to, you can do some of the prompts so that you can go on your epic journey. And you can click on the link in the description to print out your own map here of the hero's journey so that you can follow along each of the prompts as you read in June. So the second stage of our journey is to read something from the Inklings that is nonfiction. It could be a nonfiction book or an essay or just something that is nonfiction from one of the Inklings. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up if you are excited about the Inklings Readathon coming up in June. And of course, follow me over on Instagram and Storygraph and Goodreads and all the places. So we're going to start out with some nonfiction from C.S. Lewis because he is well known for having written a lot of nonfiction. If you have never read any of C.S. Lewis's nonfiction, I think the best place to start would be with Mere Christianity. This was the first nonfiction of C.S. Lewis that I read, and I hear so many people say this is the best place to start. Even if you don't know anything about Christianity, this is still a really good one to read just because it gives you this insight into human nature. Or if you think that maybe you know a few things about Christianity, maybe you are a Christian, this book will help you to see beyond the misconceptions that we sometimes have about the Christian faith and to discover what it really means to just simply, merely be a Christian. I first read this when I was 15 and it completely changed my life. So I always recommend this one as a good place to start. I also recommend The Four Loves. This book analyzes different types of love and what it means to love and to be loved, and how no one can really love anybody unless we first love God, because God is love. All love stems from God. This one is just a really, really interesting, insightful exploration of relationships and emotions and choices that we make. This one is so, so good. Then we have C.S. Lewis's autobiography, Surprised by Joy. This one chronicles not so much just the daily events in his life, but also his spiritual journey to discover Christ. Lewis called himself a reluctant convert, so it's very interesting to hear his story of how he finally realized that Christianity is true. Next, we have The Problem of Pain. This one examines the question that if God is good and God is all-powerful, then how can he allow pain and suffering in the world? I really love this book because it explores this question by kind of taking away the rose-colored glasses off of our eyes, and it looks at the reality of suffering and pain and injustice in the world. But then he logically takes you step by step and shows you how God is still good and God does care and God is all powerful. And there are reasons why pain and suffering are allowed in the world and how great good can come from those things. Sometimes it is not a pretty picture, but somehow God comes and creates beauty out of those ashes. If you've ever struggled with doubt or a loss of faith, or just feeling like this is so unfair, all of life is so unfair, then this is definitely the book to answer your questions and give you hope. This one is so, so good. Another really amazing one is A Grief Observed. So this was written by Lewis and published anonymously after the death of his wife, Joy. And it's a very raw, personal look at his struggle with grief. It's really powerful and really hopeful, but also just, ooh, those emotions are just so raw. It's impossible to get through this without crying. And it's not just about his grief over her death, but it's just kind of a general grieving over everything that disappoints us or makes us sad in life. However, in the midst of all that grief and sadness, there is a lot of hope and compassion and joy as well. I also have 2 different collections of letters from C.S. Lewis. So the first one is just Letters of C.S. Lewis. So this was first compiled by his brother, Warren Lewis, and then this revised edition was edited by Walter Hooper. My particular copy is all marked up with places that I put like a little star next to something that I thought was really interesting, or places where I've underlined things. There are just so many great little tidbits and little nuggets of wisdom all through his letters. There's also a compilation of letters to children. So these were mostly kids that wrote to C.S. Lewis asking him questions about the Narnia books. I've never read these, but they look really interesting. There's also a diary of C.S. Lewis called All My Road Before Me, and that's another one that I've never read, but I would be really interested to try. And of course, there are tons of other essays and essay collections and everything from Lewis as well. There's the essay collection God in the Dock, and there's the Abolition of Man. Abolition of Man is a little bit difficult to get into, and God in the Dock, that collection of essays as well. If you haven't read anything else from Lewis, then it can be a little bit confusing to be like, wait, what is he talking about? So it's definitely better to start out with some of the ones that I've talked about in this video. Once you've read those, you kind of understand a little bit more about what Lewis is talking about and his writing style and stuff like that. And then you might want to tackle Abolition of Man or God in the Dock. Then we finally get to J.R.R. Tolkien, and there are a lot fewer nonfiction that I can think of that I've read or that I've heard of from Tolkien. So first one is The Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. This is edited by Humphrey Carter. I really like this because it just kind of shows how imaginative Tolkien was. He kind of lived in his own little imaginary world all the time. And you can really see that coming through in his letters. And he wrote to a lot of people about the poems he was writing, or the ideas that he had for Lord of the Rings and for Middle-earth. So it's kind of interesting to see how he was very open with sharing all of his whole imaginary world with others. So we get letters like to his family and his friends and his publishers, and letters that he wrote to fans who wrote to him asking questions about the books. I think I always kind of think of Tolkien as being like really very serious or something, but he really had a great sense of humor and was even kind of playful and silly at times. So you definitely see that coming through in his letters. One of Tolkien's most famous essays is called On Fairy Stories. And we see it in this edition of the Tolkien Reader together with Leaf by Niggle. So usually if you see Tree and Leaf, that's the essay on fairy stories, and then also the short story Leaf by Niggle. So these really go together because the short story kind of illustrates everything that he talks about in the essay. Mostly he talks about story structure, mythology, and how kind of mythology has shaped our culture and how we think about our own lives. So that the way we think about fairy stories actually really kind of bleeds through into how we think about our own life story. There's always these little kernels of truth in fairy stories that then we latch onto, and we gain inspiration from those things to give us strength to live our daily lives. It's really, really good, and I definitely recommend reading it together with Leaf by Niggle. And the only other nonfiction from Tolkien that I can really think of is Beowulf, the Monsters and the Critics. So this is commentary on Beowulf, and Tolkien makes the argument that Beowulf is like the foundation of all modern literature and how important it is for our cultural psyche, and how people who dismiss Beowulf or criticize Beowulf are just dumb. Tolkien really loved Beowulf, and with good reason. And those are my recommendations for some nonfiction for the June Journeys with Inklings Readathon. Please leave a comment and let me know, can you think of any more nonfiction from Tolkien? Because we've got tons of nonfiction from Lewis, but I can't really think of very many essays or anything from Tolkien that I would include in this video. We need more recommendations, so let us know. Be sure to check out my other recommendation videos about poetry and reading the Bible. And of course, be on the lookout for more recommendation videos coming soon. But leave a comment and let us know, what nonfiction are you planning to read this June? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.